What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the SPY, the NASDAQ, the QQQs, and the futures, break down what the charts are telling us, and why we may actually get a bounce for tomorrow. I'm also going to break down some things that came out with Powell today, what the data is telling us, and once again, why we could bounce for tomorrow in the markets, if not by Friday. Now, before I break anything down about this, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Please take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks, and 5 out of those 7 free stocks could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 3 weeks. Make sure you check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. When it comes to SPY, this thing actually closed just barely in the green, and at the last minute, we actually saw some crazy algo buying. Looking at the 3-minute chart on SPY, check this out. This thing was just downtrending. The momentum was more in favor of the bears. This thing was just dropping throughout almost the entire day. And then all of a sudden, the last 20 minutes, we got this really nice bounce, and we just started to fly. We just flew from 396 all the way up to about 399. That's some very interesting stuff. And it happened at the very end. And this makes me think that the zero data expiration options are really causing the market to make moves like this. We've seen moves like this very similarly in the past, and we're likely going to see a continuation of this tomorrow. Looking at the algos, this is what the algos look like on SPY for today. Look at this. The momentum was in favor. So down here, the momentum in favor of the bears for the majority of the day. And then all of a sudden, the very end comes, the algos start buying like crazy, driving the price into the green, causing pain for shorts. Once again, very, very interesting stuff. But I don't think today was as crazy of a day for this. I think it's going to get crazier for either Thursday or Friday, maybe even tomorrow, maybe as soon as tomorrow. Now, before I talk about that, let me just talk about the whole data that came out and Jerome Powell speaking today, just real quick. Basically, the jobs opening data, or whatever you want to call it, it basically came out, and it was actually pretty hot again. Once again, telling us that the jobs market is too strong. Jerome Powell said, if the jobs market is too strong, the Fed has to continue to tighten. The Fed has to be very restrictive. The Fed has a lot of work to do. Once again, not great for the stock market. The Fed has a lot more rate hikes to come. I do believe they're going to be raising rates well above what they actually thought. They're going to likely keep them higher for longer. And once again, it's going to bring pain to the American people. It's inevitable at this point. The real question is to what degree, and that's what we're still trying to figure out, but it's likely going to be worse than what the Fed has been projecting. And I'm saying this based off what historical data has been telling us. Now, what's important about today is Powell did not say a whole ton of things. It wasn't as insightful of a day as yesterday was, because we didn't really see the House really interrogate him or talk as much about the details and the very small petty details about monetary policy like the Senate did. So Powell still did affirm a couple of things, though, and that is the Fed is very ready to give us a 50 basis point rate hike to hurt the economy if they have to. He made it very clear. And this is pretty blunt of Jerome Powell, in my opinion, compared to before. So I consider that, a good thing in a way, because the Fed is very dedicated to bringing down inflation now. They're not as lenient as before. They're not saying soft landing. They're not saying disinflation. They're reacting to data, and the data right now looks like it might be hot. So the market's pricing in 50 basis points. We're about 80% of the way there. This does not mean the market has to keep crashing from this point on. We could get a bounce temporarily, but this will change depending on CPI next week. Just as a reminder, CPI is coming out on the 14th. All right? We're very close to it because CPI comes out before the market opens on Tuesday of next week, which means we just have Monday. We have Thursday, Friday, then Monday. Thursday, Friday of this week, then Monday, and then that's it. CPI is out. So we're very close to it. And when it comes to SPY, I just want to note that max pain is going to be around 401, 400 for tomorrow and 401 for Friday. We also have a 2.09 put to call ratio. So the majority of investors, institutions are on the put side, shorting the market, saying the market's going to crash. Market makers are not liking it. That's why you see algos like this. They start buying at the last minute. They start hedging as well. We saw lots of large call sweeps for like Google, for Apple and Amazon, and also for TSML, I believe. So lots and lots of calls are being bought. Could they be hedging? Sure, but when you start to buy this many calls, there's lots of hedging that goes on with market makers and institutions buying more shares. So as a result of that, the market's artificially being propped up again, and then the zero day to expiration options. Okay, they're also going to contribute. So what I'm essentially seeing is when you look at Apple to start us off, Apple, in my opinion, we have this gap down here. I think we actually filled the gap. We came very close to doing it. I don't know if we're going to come down one last time to fill this gap, then get a really nice bounce, or if we're not going to fill the gap just yet, we just bounce from here. That's also very possible. And Apple might try to get for that 155. That's going to be my target very, very soon. I think Apple's going to try again to get a nice bounce. I also think the bullish divergence I was showing you guys might even play out on SPY. Once again, look at where SPY was in terms of its price way back here, 392. RSI was where? RSI was at 41, 38, 37, 38, 39, right? Between 37 and 40. Where's the RSI now? During these drops, the RSI actually reached a low of about 35 at one point. Let me see if I can find it. 35 today. We reached 35. There were other instances where we actually reached about 38. And then what's interesting is we also saw a higher low relative to before. So the price is making a higher low compared to these two lows. The RSI is making a lower low. That's a divergence. I think there's another mini divergence that actually played out. I'm gonna have to look at this on a micro time frame. Let's see if this is actually showing us that. So what you'll notice is, I don't know if I am seeing it. Wow, there's another divergence. So right here, RSI was at 26 when we dropped to about 397. Then we dropped to about 396. The RSI was not at 26. The RSI was actually at 32. So the RSI makes a higher low. The price makes a lower low. That's a divergence. That's why we started to push up. This could continue into tomorrow. I don't know if the market's going to like gap down a little bit, then start pushing up, or however it does it. But I do believe because of the 0 day to expiration options, and also because Max Payne's at 400 for tomorrow and 401 for Friday, the market's going to slowly approach 400 and actually break above it by tomorrow. I think that's going to happen. If we don't get a big break tomorrow, it should happen by Friday. But I believe it's going to happen tomorrow. Also, because when you zoom out on SPY, you will notice that we have this resistance line. This white line right here is resistance. We've been getting rejected off this white line many times, right? Well, previous resistance becomes support. And look at where we bounced today. Let me actually show you this on the hourly so it's easier to see. There we are. So right here, we broke below it temporarily, came above it. Once we saw algos buying again, today we came down and we actually touched it almost exactly. And we're actually bouncing off of it. So to me, there are many signs pointing in the direction the market might try to bounce. And this whole market is so manipulated that it's almost moving on one algo. So notice how it wasn't just SPY that got this big push at the end. It was also the QQQ. The NASDAQ did the same thing. Right, nice push up at the end. Look at, I don't know, AMC, random stock AMC. Look how AMC was moving. Came down, nice push up at the very end. Right? Apple. What did Apple do? Apple dropped and dropped. It actually held throughout the majority of the day, but we did get a push up at the last hour. The market is just moving in unison. It's very interesting. So that's why I do think Apple's going to try to get to 155 by either tomorrow or even by Friday. It's very possible. That could help drag SPY up. Google, in my opinion, we do have this gap below. I don't know if Google's going to drop a little to fill this gap first. We could see Google maybe just drop a tiny bit, then get a really nice bounce and try pushing above 95 and maybe get very close to major resistance around the 96 level. I do think Google's going to try it. We have a bullish structure developing. It might try to continue pushing up. Once again, it might come down a little bit, then try to push up. IWM, the Russell 2000, once again looking bullish to me. Nice bounce off a very important level. My target was about 184.8. We actually bounced off 185, very close. We actually got above 186.6, almost exactly where this fib level was. We have room to get to 188, and I think we're going to try to get there by tomorrow or Friday. Triple Q, it might get dragged up. We have a possible, this is almost looking like an inverse head and shoulders to me. Yeah, it almost looks like it. And I think that we don't really have a bullish divergence on it though. I'm not really seeing it, but I am seeing a possible, let's see if there is any divergence. I'm not really seeing a divergence. Well, technically, yes, there is a divergence right here actually, because we did make a low right here. We made a higher low here, whereas the RSI did get lower. So there is technically a small divergence on QQQ, not very significant though. But regardless of that, seeing the fact that Apple could bounce, it really looks like it's going to, SPY as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Triple Q tries to get back to 300 or above it by tomorrow, maybe even higher, maybe above 300 by tomorrow. I think it's very possible. For Tesla, Tesla to me is showing some relative weakness. It's down 3%. The market bounced. Tesla should have bounced with the market, but Tesla is close to a very important demand zone. We actually held 180 almost perfectly. And on top of that, we did fill the gap down here. I mentioned this yesterday. The gap happens to be around that 182 level. So Tesla did drop around 180. We could try to bounce on Tesla. I don't know how big it's going to be because Tesla, once again, is looking pretty weak. If Tesla could hold 180, this thing could try to bounce. We could even try to get some maybe like the very high 170s, then try to see the bounce. There's the gap all the way up here in the high 180s. It might try to fill the gap by Friday if the market turns bullish. But I do believe Tesla might bounce tomorrow. We either come down a little lower than we bounce, or we might try to bounce and get all the way back to about 184, almost 185, around 185. If we break that, I'm going to be looking for the gap fill around the high 180s, and we'll be on our way to try to retest 190. I do think Tesla could do it. I really want this thing to bounce with the market. But once again, like I said, it is still showing some relative weakness. So I don't think it's going to be very strong during a time like this. NEO managed to get above its major previous demand zones. That's a good sign. With a possible inverse head and shoulders, and I'm seeing potential for NEO to continue to push. We have another divergence that formed. RSI was getting higher, price got lower. We're likely going to continue pushing. NEO is going to get to the mid $9 level very soon, in my opinion. Maybe the high nines by early next week, maybe approaching CPI, just maybe. I do think NEO could try it. The dollar, in my opinion, it's been pushing pretty hard, but we're getting hit with some stronger resistance. I think it's going to trade a little sideways here. It might retrace a little bit to about 105.3. I mean, could we go a little lower? I mean, it is possible. The dollar could come all the way back down to the 104s since we are getting hit with strong resistance above. It's a possibility. I'm not really counting on too much to happen to it. It looks like it's going to just trade sideways, maybe downtrend just a tiny bit because of the market. That's just what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing anything too significant though. For the VIX, this looks like it's going to actually downtrend. And this is because of how the market is performing. The market looks like it's going to try to uptrend, dragging the VIX down. The VIX is about to get a crossover on the PPO. It's losing bullish momentum. It's going to likely end up in the very low 19s, if not the 18s, by tomorrow or maybe even by Friday. Once again, this is telling me the market might try to rally approaching CPI. I'm not counting on the rally to last through CPI. I just don't really know what's going to happen after CPI comes out. It really depends on the data. But until then, we might get a mini rally approaching it. Microsoft, I did predict Microsoft would actually retest 250, try to bounce off that. That's almost what it did. We're very close to getting a crossover here. If Microsoft could get a close above 154, it'll have a lot of potential to push all the way up to about 156, if not the not one, 256 to 258. I'm sorry, guys. I'm talking about the 200s, not the 100s. But I do believe Microsoft could try to bounce tomorrow. If we could get a nice break above resistance at 254.23, if we break that, this thing is going to fly to about 255 to 256 pretty quickly. I think I just talked about Google, Amazon, then I'm going to end the video after that. Amazon, in my opinion, possible inverse head and shoulders. We're about to get a crossover on the PPO. We're gaining some strength. I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon gets to 95 tomorrow. 95 tomorrow or by Friday, maybe even a little higher. We could even retest the 1 hour 200 EMA around this, what is this, 95.5 level. I do think Amazon's going to go for it. So anyways, that's what I have for this video. I want to thank you all so much for listening. I'm trying to make this as simple and clear as possible, so please be ready. Also, be prepared for anything, because I can't always predict the future perfectly. I'm not always going to be correct. Unexpected news could happen. We do have jobless claims coming out, so I don't know how that's going to affect the market. Maybe it causes a slight pullback in the very beginning of the day, but I do believe whatever pullback we may get is going to be followed by lots of buying pressure. So I am anticipating a bounce throughout the market. I believe it's going to happen by Thursday to Friday, more starting tomorrow. I'm more inclined to saying that. So that's why I'm saying there could be a bounce tomorrow. Be ready for it and be very careful, because we are getting very close to CPI. Thank you for listening. All right, remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. The market to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright, and peace out.